I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And today we have another Q&A session for you. Yay! If you have questions that you would like to ask us about the ghosty things, definitely utilize the TikTok Q&A button. That is going to be the best place to get your question answered, I should say. Because otherwise it can get a little bit lost into the comment sections of whatnot. So today we are utilizing those questions that were asked through that button. So JT, do you have any announcements you want to make or anything like that?
Yeah, become a pair junkie because we got a lot of stuff coming up and we got a lot of stuff already on there. So, we got exclusive episodes every week. We are cooking with grease on a mobile podcast about the Belgium train explosion. And we have 2 series episodes, which is a television series that we're shooting that is fused with a podcast. So, it's kind of like a new media type of thing. Really, really excited about that.
It's fun stuff.
It is.
And if you want to see Chris and I sitting on the floor of the Gray Face Museum.
Surrounded by clowns.
Yes, surrounded by clowns, then you should become a parajunkie. So
Yes.
Awesome.
Let's go ahead and get started. All right. The first question comes from Aaron Bailey, 2002. You know what I didn't do? Hold on. Let me thank our patrons. Woo! We haven't done that in a minute. All right. I would love to thank Corinne Denny, Kelsey Reagan, Allison Teal, Amarillo Doe, and Lauren. Thank y'all so much for becoming patrons this week. Seriously, we really, really, really appreciate it. Welcome to the Parajunkie family. All right, now let's get started. Aaron Bailey, 2002, asks, "Hi, besties."
Hey, bestie.
Hey, girl, hey. Why do some people experience ghost touches to feel like butterflies/cobwebs and some experience a human touch? # ghost heroin.
We're never going to live it down.
No, we're not.
That's the way it goes.
But it's an interesting question. I think it really depends on the spirit that is touching you. So, how we like to talk about different spirits have different ways of going about things. Some spirits have higher energy levels than others. I find that spirits that are children or, a little bit of a weaker energy, or, they're the ones that typically are the butterfly sensation or the cobweb or whatever that feeling is. Usually if you feel a hand touching you, that's a very strong entity because that takes a lot of force to get that type of sensation. Typically, the reason why it feels like butterflies is because it's that energy movement. It's almost kind of static electricity of sorts. And that's why it kind of feels like a butterfly fluttering.
Or a cobweb.
Or a cobweb. So if you're feeling a hand or a very strong presence like that, it's usually a pretty strong entity. That's kind of the equivalent. So,
And to the same effect, it depends on the person.
That is
Some
true
people
too.
are far more sensitive than other people, and sometimes that sensitivity allows them to experience a more concrete sensation versus a more loose sensation. If you are not overly sensitive, then a spirit trying to reach out and communicate with you can come in very muddied, very light. But if you are very sensitive, it can become very loud and sometimes deafening. So the combination of the two, the energy and the ability of the spirit and the energy and the ability of the person receiving the contact, there are so many variables really when it comes down to it. And that's funny because a lot of questions will boil down to this kind of Well, it depends.
Yeah,
it depends on the type of spirit you're dealing with. It depends on your level of sensitivity. And to that point, there are times when people who are not sensitive at all will encounter a very, very forceful spirit, and they will have a profound experience. They'll feel it. They'll have this almost physical interaction with it. And then there are times when somebody's very sensitive and there'll be a weak spirit, but they will have very concrete sensations, feelings coming off of a spirit that doesn't have enough energy to generate that kind of force for the non-receptive person.
If I feel a cobweb touch me, I scream. So if
I think we might have some of that on film, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we did hit that cobweb.
Meldrum.
It wasn't a cobweb. That spider was out to get us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I hit it with my face and it did not break. The web was like, I got you. I'm like, no, you don't. No, I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, and the gimbal, it pulled the gimbal, like, I don't know if y'all know, for those of you who don't know what a gimbal is, it has 3 motors and it balances the camera. It pulled the gimbal against its, well, you know,
that was
the
a
type
strong
of
spider.
string?
I was expecting like Spider-Man
Yeah.
to show up because it stopped me in
Yeah.
my tracks.
I mean, yeah, the camera goes like
I
that.
was like, good job, spider. You caught a 6'4" Asian. It's like, we feast.
Tonight we feast.
Yo, that spider
It's
was
Aragog from Harry Potter.
it was literally Chris. He caught Chris, and then I walked into it. Madison like dodged it somehow.
Well, I ducked. Well, because I was sandwiched in between you two, so I saw Chris get smacked up. So I was like, cool. I'm a duck down. I'm also small, so I was just like, and JT's everywhere.
Chris brought
so
it
it's
down.
like-
Chris brought it down to like my level, which is like half of him, and then it hits the camera. So I probably would have went under it if I was first, and then Chris managed to bring it down to my level. Thank you.
I had to snap it away from my head. It was strong. It was like a cable.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so it caught the camera.
spiders are scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just get that over with.
Yeah.
Just creepy crawlies.
Creepy crawlies.
Don't mess with the Meldrum, Georgia spiders, though.
I think they were trying to catch a train. I got a plan.
It's true.
Just over the years, it got stronger and stronger.
A
trying to stop the
conspiracy
train.
theory.
Involved. All right. Well, that was funny. Okay. So Taylor and Luke asks, hi guys, love the show. Thank you. Do you think playing a song sung by an artist that has passed away would conjure that spirit? Ooh, interesting. Example, Amy Winehouse.
So
Weird flex. I like this.
that is an interesting
That's a
question.
great question.
Taylor and Luke always comes in with the heat.
She does,
So
right?
Yeah.
She brings the heat.
Honestly, I feel like it really does more to honor a spirit than conjure a spirit, if that makes sense. When we play their music, when we interact with their art, it's not actively like the intention isn't there to be like, I'm going to play this music and conjure the spirit of Amy Winehouse. You know, it's you're appreciating it. So I don't think, if you're blasting Amy Winehouse in your car, which I do often, I actually really love Amy Winehouse. I don't anticipate her coming and sitting in my...
Do you really?
I love Amy Winehouse.
Because anytime she pulls up, it's just heavy metal. Literally. I'm not kidding.
That is true.
And I'm like, hey, baby.
Sometimes
You
just
having a
need to
good day?
Scrub the brain,
Yeah, listen.
She's a metalhead.
Okay, but so are you. So, anyways, no, and I do. I love Amy Winehouse. That was the first artist that I've ever played in my first car of my own.
You mean the
So
Amy
it's-
Winehouse cover by Suicide Silence?
Oh my God. Anyways, I don't know why this turned into him roasting me. But
He's got the material.
apparently,
I do have material.
I also have a lot of material on him. We can go into
Let's watch
JT's.
that shit.
I know, right? But yes, I don't anticipate Amy Winehouse coming and sitting with me in my little Volkswagen Beetle. So, it's an interesting concept. I feel like if you wanted to invoke a spirit, you could if you were in the intention mindset.
Well, it's interesting because I think that now we are dealing with projection more than conjure. I think that if you were to attempt a reach out, especially to somebody that is not directly involved in your life or your existence, what you're really doing is you are giving energy around you a form. You're basically utilizing your own passions for an artist, your own love, and it can manifest as seeing, feeling, or having a profound experience with what seems like the spirit of that artist. But really what it is it's a manifestation of your connection to the artist. So it would only be as solid as your feelings about the artist, as the emotions that are evoked by listening to the music, as these things, which I think can occur with any person that you have idolization of, anybody that you love deeply, anyone that you, they can become a amalgam of the energies around you and present themselves as a form that you find most receivable. So when talking about like actually conjuring the exact spirit, there are so many conditions and so many things, and in the end we don't actually know, but I do firmly believe that energies around you want to communicate, want to be seen, heard, felt, want to have connection. And if you are playing music and emoting in a certain way and showing openness to a specific thing, you might encounter the spirit that you would identify as that artist. I have lots of stories about being visited by Mark Twain all my life. Like even before I knew who Mark Twain was, the first time I saw Mark Twain or a picture of him, I was like, I know that guy.
Wow.
And it was definitely one of those things where I'm not certain by any stretch of the imagination that Mark Twain is speaking to me, but I do have a profound love of Mark Twain, of his writing, of everything like that. So it's one of those weird back and forths that in the pre-time of my cognition, I might have seen like Hal Holbrook on the TV, and it just became something ingrained in my mind. I don't know, but I do know that Mark Twain has helped me through very dark times, very bizarrely, through dreams and through kind of like visions and audible sounds and things. So yeah, that actually sounds like schizophrenia now that I say it out loud. But what I am saying is that energies around you do want to communicate with you, and oftentimes will try to find a way to do that doesn't alarm or scare you, that doesn't send you away, that you're receptive to. Which is equally dangerous because harmful spirits will do the same. They will try to disguise themselves as things you would be receptive to receiving, because that connection is so important in order to continue their existence. Their existence is defined by our recognition of them, at least on this plane. They exist in a different plane. They exist in an alternate plane. So anytime that they're here, they rely on us to form them, to give them context.
Okay. Could an artist's music or film or, any type of art, even a painting, could it be used in a ritual to like in an actual
Absolutely.
ritual?
Oh, yeah.
Not just by playing it
Absolutely.
randomly.
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely. And we kind of briefly talk about this when we were in the Gacy room at the Graveface Museum. So if you're a para-junkie, you'll eventually see that. But when you're making art, you're putting a piece of yourself into that. And so I feel like it does attach itself almost to you.
Yeah.
I do get weary, though, when people try to conjure celebrities.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous because, especially with a celebrity, because there are entities out there that know that you so desperately want to talk to this person. And that's why when people are like, oh, I was able to conjure the spirit of Marilyn Monroe, or
Right. Exactly.
or someone from the 27 Club, because especially the 27 Club,
Yes.
a lot of people have,
wanted that.
yeah, I get suspicious because I'm like, I just, especially because like Chris said, you don't have like a connection with them personally in life. So it's harder. It immediately makes it harder.
Although, if I die tomorrow and you try to conjure me by playing like our feature film or something that I made, I will be honored. I will literally show up like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
This is so sweet.
Well, and make note that when you listen to the music of a dead person, you are listening to the voice of a dead person. When you see a movie and all those actors have passed, when you watch Humphrey Bogart on screen or when you watch Marilyn Monroe on screen, in many ways you are directly interacting with the ghosts of these people, with the imprint that they left on this world. And that is why art is such a fascinating thing, because it is a way that we communicate to each other, but it lasts and outlasts us. So those figures reach a certain type of immortality. Marilyn Monroe has been dead a long time, but we still talk pretty regularly. It comes up in conversation. Elvis Presley dead a long time.
Yeah.
He still has a presence in pop culture, in the zeitgeist. So whenever that is available, you have to realize that that spiritual energy of so many people recognizing, so many people knowing who that is, does give a certain type of material for spirits to present themselves.
And can art be haunted?
Absolutely.
By
Yes.
either the artist or because I remember there's a movie, I don't remember what it's called. You might remember, Chris, but it's a movie that I believe it's like in the 70s or 80s, possibly 90s. And I'm giving you a wide breath, a couple decades.
Just 30 years. Go ahead.
But I know it wasn't before the 70s. But it was a movie that is cursed, and anyone who watches it, like dies or
sure.
Yeah, it was the movie that
everybody
everybody who
in the last couple years.
I remember that. It was the movie. Oh God, what it was called?
Let me Google it.
It was the movie where like everybody who went to see it in that theater died, like a really odd death or something like
movie.
that. And so it was a really strange.
They're just showing you the movie called Curse, right?
Yeah, right.
Cursed. Yeah, that's exactly the cursed.
Yeah.
Love it.
Because I remember when they released it.
It starts with an A.
Yeah,
it starts with an A.
Yes.
First film. Antrim. Thank you.
Antrim. I was like, it's like atrium. It's like
Antrim.
Yes.
Antrim.
Yeah.
Oh, you can watch it free on Tubi.
Congratulations.
You could.
That's straight up Ring material right there.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay.
But yes, to answer the question, anything that requires that dedication of time and forethought, anybody who's putting effort into the creation of something is performing a ritual.
Sure.
Making a movie is a ritual. It involves very specific tasks, very specific things that you do over and over again. Painting a picture,
Damn
a ritual.
straight.
Yeah.
You have to make the lines. You have to form the picture. You are putting intent and thought into these things, and that's why you can come across cursed paintings that are not the subject matter, but rather the intent of the artist. So, you find all these things. There was a great story in Savannah about a pair of paintings that was in an antique shop, and Bed and Breakfast bought one of the paintings, separating the two.
Okay.
And it caused all kinds of mayhem, and every guest who was in the room with the painting complained about the painting and complained about the sense of unease. The antique store caught on fire. There's all kinds of things. And what we learned was that the paintings were of a husband and wife, and the paintings had never been separated. They'd always traveled together. And when this person who was just decorating their bed and breakfast bought the wife and took it away, all of this energy was all of a sudden
love
just
that.
torn. And I was like, what a great story.
It's so romantic.
It is very romantic.
Babe, if we ever get separated as paintings, I'll burn an
My favorite was
tore down for you, baby.
one of the guys who stayed in the room said that he woke up in the middle of the night because the light, so it was a woman and there was a lamp in the back, a gas lamp. The light from the lamp was shining into his room from the painting. What? Yeah, and he left. He was just like, nope, I'm
Absolutely
out.
not. There's also like plenty of stories of paintings being cursed of sorts because artists put their own blood into
Lots
it.
of blood in paintings, yeah.
There is a lot of blood in painting.
Because
it's a good paint.
Even if they didn't do it on purpose, there's all kinds of weird things, palette knives and things like that. Famous story of Michelangelo swallowing gallons of paint. Over the time that he painted, because he was lying on his back painting on the ceiling. Yep. So there's plenty of art that carries with it the anguish of the artist.
Yeah.
And when you have that tortured artist scenario, you could have leftover residue of that.
I feel like as a filmmaker, obviously it's like you have a digital file, so you can't bleed into it. But I feel, that when you're trying to get a shot, and of course this, Chris, like when you're trying to get a shot and you're just stressing your body out super hard, you're hanging upside down, you're there's plenty of filmmakers that jump out of planes, and I always find myself like trying to get a weird shot, and I've bent my body into an S. And it's just like the pain and the stress and like the sweat, that all is kind of like in the digital file for you. And people don't know what you did.
You're putting all that energy into it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And when you're watching everyone watch it, they're like, "Oh, cool shot." I'm like, "Oh, thank God it was worth it." It's like
sometimes, like when you're watching a movie, you can actually get a sense of what it was like to be on set, if that makes sense. Like you can watch a movie and sense that these people loved each other.
Yeah.
That these people are in sync, and it reads and registers through. So when they're not in sync, also reads and registers through. So
yes, it does.
That gives you an idea of what you're really capturing in any art, photography, painting, is the overall energy that went into the creation of it, and it lasts, it exists. And I'm surprised that there's not more discussion about people who are communicating through art.
Sure.
And that communication lives past them.
Yeah.
And stretches beyond them. If you put it on a streaming service, people you'll never meet in person are experiencing your words, your thoughts, your ideas, and that is, in essence, a way of haunting a person.
Sure.
I am haunting someone on the other side of the world who is listening to my words or seeing my what I wanted to see, seeing through my eyes. So yeah, I think that deserves a deep dive. That maybe in a future podcast we'll look at is haunted art.
Haunted art. All right, here we go. Angel Dewata asks, and I believe this person's asked questions before. Thank you. Do you believe watching scary movies and indulging in horror/true crime media attracts negative energy /spirits to you? What are with these great questions, bro?
Well, if that is the case, then I am so screwed.
I think to a certain degree, yes. I mean, I don't think you're going to get Ted Bundy by watching a Ted Bundy. I hope you don't.
Oh, gosh.
So I think the short answer is, watching scary movies or listening to scary things, ghost stories in general, does open you up to the idea. It gives you a premise by which you can operate in your life. And if you are opening that door saying maybe there's something there, then the things that are there will become more apparent to you. So it's not so much I'm inviting evil things or I'm inviting things by watching these scary movies. I think that what you're really doing is giving yourself the opportunity to experience something frightful, something scary in a relatively safe environment, but you are opening your perception. You're saying these
maybe
are
ghosts
things.
do exist.
Maybe ghosts do exist. And that's kind of what I think the tradition of ghost stories is introducing an idea of a world that is beyond our own so that we can navigate it, so that we can have some kind of map for when these things happen, if they happen. Most ghost stories are fantastical, around the campfire, but it prepares you for the idea that maybe things linger, maybe things are around. So I do think that to some degree, what you're doing when you're watching scary things or when you're watching these true crime things is you're kind of opening up a perception of the possibility. And once you've accepted a possibility, then the reality is not too far behind.
Well, so the thing is, if where I go with this is, I feel like horror movies are a healthy way of exploring your fears. Because it's very cathartic. It's interesting too. And then on the side of true crime, I think the reason why true crime really has taken a major like uptick, is that it allows people from the safety of their own home to explore the human condition. It's
a roller coaster.
Exactly.
A roller coaster gives you the thrill of flying towards your death, without, the risk of dying.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just, I don't think it invites things in because you have to intentionally, in my opinion, you have to be actively, like that is your intention. If your intention is just to experience this for fun, or if your intention is to, like I have a fear of dolls and I'm gonna watch this movie about dolls to help me get over my fear of dolls, whatever, which has not helped me, but it's but surprise. But if that's your intention, there's not things. I like to clarify for some of the viewers because I feel like they think that we're out here saying like there's just entities watching you all the time, like waiting for you to slip up. And it's like, that's not the case. They're not sitting there like, well, she's watching The Conjuring, so now I'm going to become Bathsheba and I'm going to dive on in.
Like off of that though, what if you're watching The Conjuring in the Conjuring house? Or what if you're watching a Ted Bundy documentary in the Cayo house at Florida State? It's like, it's busted down, but like on that land, like what about that? What if you're watching it in a place of significance?
Acts of conjuring. Those are willing acts of tempting fate and of the like, and people grossly overestimate how regular encounters with the dead are because there are so many outlets for people to speak and talk about it. It's a very rare occasion, and spirits are not a common thing because they don't technically belong. We exist in a very specific type of world for a reason, for the experiential reason of being human. And these extra entities, these extra things, these extra spirits, they are sort of like a byproduct of existence. So it is not normal to encounter ghosts regularly. People who have gifts, people who see them all the time are actually dealing with an ability to peer past what is concrete to the rest of us. So it is important to note that I keep talking about opening the door, about opening your perception, opening your willingness, and things of that nature. That does not automatically mean you're going to have an experience. I've known far too many people who are desperate to have that experience, who are desperate to see, sense, or be a part of some haunted experience, and they never get it.
Sure.
They'll never actually experience it. And that's where the equipment comes in that you use in ghost hunting, because the equipment facilitates an experience. It facilitates something that is not readily available physically to people who are not overly sensitive. So when we talk about spirits and we talk about it, because this is a ghost podcast, it is literally us talking about ghosts, but because this is the only experience you have with us, it seems like it is the all-consuming thing in our existence, in our life.
Sure.
Important to note, it is not normal to witness or experience the paranormal. So if you do, you are actually having a rare and wondrous experience of the human journey. And the vast majority of them are positive. Mm-hmm. Just like the vast majority of people that you will encounter in your life are positive. I'm hoping that you have relatively few truly nasty people in your life, relatively few murderers, relatively few serial killers. Hopefully you haven't run into these people, and people go their whole lives from birth to death without encountering terrible, horrible people of that nature, of that extreme, of that extremity. And that's the same with spirits. The vast majority of them are kind and, want to facilitate a comfortable existence for themselves and you. So, we tend to only tell dark stories because those are the ones that most people want to hear. And it is probably the more fascinating of them. Yeah. Because we could just spend the whole day going, and then it was nice.
It was. Yes.
And then it was pleasant. Because a lot of ghost encounters are just like, I saw a guy, he waved at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, spooky. It's like, it's not spooky. A lot, I mean, especially for people who have the gift of sight or the gift of seeing. Mm-hmm. That's right. They have very pedestrian experiences. They just see somebody standing there. They just see somebody walk by. They, will walk down the street, and it is not that much different than you walking down the street and seeing someone you don't know walk by.
Yeah.
It's that casual, which makes, which takes away a little of the boogity from the storytelling. But
That's got to go on a shirt.
The boogity boogity.
Boogity boogity.
And it should be noted that we focus on the boogity boogity stories because they excite us, because they're exciting. I do the same when I encounter people. If a person is exciting and interesting, I'm telling my wife, I met the most incredible person today. If somebody just walks by and says, hey, I always say, guess what? Some guy walked by and said, and we don't do that.
Yeah.
So it is worth noting that we definitely talk a lot about spirits and their parasitic nature and how they're trying to get in. That is because of the nature of this podcast, not because it is the prevailing theory of spirits for us.
I would completely agree with that.
All right, let's go on to the next question. But before we do, I would like to plug something super fast. Thank y'all all for leaving 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Seriously, that helps us out so much. We're just like 5 stars all around, and that that makes us feel really, really good about what we do. If you haven't left us 5 stars yet, please do. If you enjoy this podcast, we really appreciate it. All right, on to the next one. I'm all right, dude, periods, asks, so, like, how do you feel about people you might have influenced through your podcast? I sleep with my door closed because of the Hat Man.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Shoot. Oh, my God. Okay, hold on. Whoa, I gotta. All right, let me just repeat the question. So, like, I feel like this is like, and I feel like I'm all right.
I'm all right, dude.
And it's like, it's
Are
like
you
in the
sure?
hand,
Are you okay?
Are you doing all right?
We're sorry. As I just said, hey, if you enjoyed this podcast,
If we've scarred you forever.
if we scarred you forever, leave us 5 stars.
Oh, my God.
All right. So, like, how do you feel about people you might have influenced through your podcast? I sleep with my door closed because of the Hat Man and chair facing away from me.
We're so sorry. It's never our intention to make you fearful of your life.
Wait, hold on though. Like, I will tell you, I love this question because as a guy who like was born to just scare people, that's what I want.
That's your goal.
That's my
Yes.
goal. So you've helped me accomplish my goal, and I'm glad you're all right, dude.
Well,
All right.
technically, that was my story that scarred this person. I was the one who brought Hat Man into this conversation.
bring
Oh,
Hat Man
jeez.
into
I'm so sorry. And don't be fearful of Hat Man. I do want to clarify that. Don't be scared of him because he's not really a bad spirit per se.
Well,
He's
I've
just,
never heard a story of him being
yeah, he doesn't attack.
aggressive or.
There's a first time for everything, though.
Shut up, Jay. Anyways, exiled. That'll also go on a shirt or a hat or something. Exiled. Anyways, but yeah, Hatman's never hurt anybody. I brought it up because it was a creepy experience from my childhood.
And it's one that many people have
Yeah.
reported. There's a lot of stories of Hat Man. But how do we feel about people we've influenced?
I mean, we love our listeners a lot.
We love our listeners, and that's an interesting thing because that's kind of the name of the game is influence. What can we provide to people that they don't receive anywhere else? So that we can introduce you to a story that you may not have heard or some notion that you may not have been familiar with, to the point of scaring you. Sorry. But at the same time, that is kind of what the stories are.
Oh, yeah.
That is kind of what the idea behind doing a podcast like this is to face your fears in a safe environment. This is a safe environment. We're not jumping out of the radio to go boo. We are
boogity
boogity. We're not boogity boogitying you.
It's coming.
It will at one point. We'll do that old video where the face pops up.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, we'll have to do that sometime. But to the point, it shows the power of storytelling. It shows the power of our ability to encapsulate and present material that is personal to us, that is something that our base of knowledge is experience more than anything else. So when we tell a story about something that happened to us, something that occurred to us, or something that we've looked up and really researched or anything like that, the fact that it can affect you kind of is the point. We do want people to know these things and be familiar with them because it's our passion. We're doing this out of passion. We're doing this because we love it. It's a subject that we could go on and on and on about. So, that's how we actually made this podcast happen. It was a subject that if these microphones weren't here, we would probably have these exact same conversations.
Exactly.
We would talk about these things, and we had talked about them, for years of just, oh yeah, have you heard that? Oh yeah, did you know this? So, we're just including everyone in what we're passionate about and what we love, but we do not intend to do damage.
Yeah.
I do a little bit.
Well, JT's a minute. I would compare us to being like, if you watch horror movies or things like that, we're on par with things like that.
Sure.
And mind you, same as Chris said with the last question, we do talk about the scary stuff because that's what people want to hear. That's what people who have listened to this podcast have told us. They're like, yes, we like these scary, scary stories. Because, I can tell you about some nice ghosts I've experienced, but y'all are like, weak. And so
seriously, no, seriously.
It's true.
Yeah. On TikTok, the people
so
on TikTok are so freaking mean. Now, not all of you. There's a lot of great, people on TikTok who, TikTok really blew us up.
Yeah,
that's how we got blown up.
TikTok do be keeping us humble though.
They're like,
I just stopped reading the comments altogether.
Yeah, honestly,
same. I don't even read the comments unless we're going through it for questions and all of that. Just because
I do.
I know you do.
So, but regardless.
All right. Let's move on. Thrifty Letters. I like that. Thrifty Letters asks, do you know much about the legend of La Llorona?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Honestly, I'd like to, we could talk a little bit about it, but I have the perfect person for La Llorona, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
He grew up, being Hispanic, he grew up with this, and it was his number one fear as a kid. And
first, explain who Michael is.
Oh, Michael's one of my best friends. He's one of my best friends. He was a groomsman of mine, and he lives in Atlanta now. He did live in Chicago, but he moved down, so he's way closer, and I love that. We actually just went up and saw him, but he's going to be down early November, so we'll have him on the podcast because he's actually a makeup artist and a great one at that. He
Very
does
good.
super, super dark stuff.
Talk about nightmare fuel. His stuff
he
is
does
creepy.
Great stuff. His name's Michael Molina. If you want to see him on
Deathly
Facebook.
Swallows. Yes.
Yeah.
That's his humor. So
follow
him on Instagram.
But anyway, he's great. But yeah, we'll have him on to talk about La Llorona,
sure,
I think,
absolutely.
and some other Hispanic.
So yeah, be on the lookout for a future episode on La Llorona. But we are familiar enough, and La Llorona falls into the woman in white, long black hair, crying, which is a spirit that is seen and experienced all around the world. Almost every culture has some version of the crying woman, or the certainly the mother who's lost her children. Even you take Alice Riley as a La Llorona type character, which is that maternal loss of child, and I think that's because the grief of that type of experience does just resonate as a human being. you understand anguish, you understand sorrow, you understand these things, and that personification is seen throughout the world. Even Bloody Mary in England, when you're saying Bloody Mary in England, if you're familiar with the Bloody Mary, and I should preface this that I'm not 100% sure. I was told this, but I believe they say Bloody Mary, I have your baby. Instead of just Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, you say Bloody Mary, I have your baby. Bloody Mary, I have your baby. Because part of that myth and mythos was the idea that Bloody Mary was a woman who lost her children, because that seems to be enough of a grief moment to really just spike through our plane of existence and make something last.
Yeah, I mean, any type of spirit like that exists because of the trauma of losing children, because that type of trauma is very, very intense and very palpable.
And universal.
Yes, exactly. And so that's why we usually, when we talk about Alice Riley, why she's such an intense spirit, one, because we talk about her so much, but like, you know, I usually say on my tour, I'm like, a mother that lost their child, that's going to be a woman who you don't want to get in her way, you know, because even like the scream that people have reported when a mother finds out that they lost their child is unlike any kind of scream that you could possibly hear. I think that shows a lot to why these spirits stick almost.
That's why grizzly bears are the way they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're and hippopotamus.
Yeah.
You know, both of those animals are extremely deadly solely off of the fact that they are
very maternal.
Yeah, very maternal.
Protecting.
Deathly maternal.
You know?
Yeah. And that's worth noting.
It's natural.
You know, in nature, the female is oftentimes the larger, the stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the female is oftentimes the aggressor and the one, you know, when you think of lions, you always think of this big maned lion. That guy just lies around while the women do all the hunting and killing. So, you know, it is a fascinating aspect of our universal comprehension of the human experience. That loss of child is profound, but it's almost always maternal. You very rarely have ever heard of a father ghost who lost his child. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that our physical connection as fathers to a child are not the same. They're just not the same.
Yes.
We did not gestate, and we did not have. This was not our flesh, in as much as, you know, a body inside of another body.
I actually have a really interesting, like, super quick story about that maternal fire. Basically, when I was a young kid, y'all know that my film production company is called Red Eye Film Productions. When I was a young kid, my dad at our mountain house up in Western North Carolina would tell us about the red eyes. And it was always these things that would like look in through the window, like at you with these glowing red eyes. And he painted this like, you know, super gruesome picture, and I loved it. I never saw him, so that's why I loved it. Cause I could just imagine it.
On Olin Island.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, maybe they're everywhere.
You know the actual story of the red eye?
No, I don't know the story.
Finish your story. Go ahead.
But yeah, so anyway, so my dad and his brother, Uncle Bruce, decided that they were going to destroy me. And and they took bike reflectors, and Bruce went out in the woods, and Dad says, "Hey Jay, I want to show you something really quick." And our mountain house is like up on a hill, and you know, there's woods at the bottom of this hill. And he shines this big, powerful flashlight into the woods, and there are those glowing red eyes. He told me about everything, became so real. And did I get behind my papa? Did I get behind my granddad, who did like 3 tours in Vietnam? No, I went to my Mimi. Oh. I went straight to my Mimi, and I was crying, and I literally, like, that was the safest place in the entire world, was my Mimi. And she was like 5'5", but mean as a freaking fire ant. And I went, and I literally dove into my Mimi, and she held me, and she unleashed the most unholy hell upon these two men. I will never forget. And I'm just standing there behind Mimi, like smiling, like you're getting it. And she's like, if you ever do that, I mean, and my dad and Uncle Bruce like have their heads down, and they're like, oh my god, and, I am so screwed. And yeah, so I mean, that just like from a young kid, just my natural instinct was to go to my Mimi, his
great-grandmother.
My great-grandmother, old and small, but she was fury. I mean, she was fury. And she did a great job defending me. She could have took down those red eyes. She did, actually.
Yeah, she did. Absolutely. She absolutely took them down. Well, it's funny because, red eyes, in this area, they're pirates.
Oh, really?
But wherever you go, there is a version of the story, which is basically a criminal enterprise of some type go to hide their goods.
Okay.
And the leader doesn't trust one of them, so he burns their eyes out with a red hot poker. And what you're seeing is the smoldering embers in their eyes. And and in on Oatland Island, the story is that they buried a treasure there, pirates.
Sure.
And they put hot coals in his eyes, but he was left there to protect the treasure. They just didn't want him to see.
Sure.
They put the coals in his eyes, so you're seeing these coals and embers in his eyes. Yeah. So
I love that.
That I've heard that story in like multiple locations. Out in the middle of Kansas, it was Native Americans. Out in the far west, it was gangsters.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, interesting. That this story comes around, that somebody wants to tell you the story about someone burning someone else's eyes out, and the embers of their eye, of their sockets are what you see.
Interesting. I gotta ask Dad where he got that, because he might have heard that. He's lived in the South his whole life. I always thought that he got it from, because he's the one that created it.
In the mountains, it's usually moonshiners.
Oh, I don't think Dad knows anything about
just
that,
the story is the red eyes are moonshiners who have a still, and one of them double crosses them, so they take the fire from the still and pop.
Wow, so
out their
that's
eyes.
One of those things that just goes around. That's interesting. I always thought that Dad got it from like Scooby-Doo cartoons, where you have the red eyes in the woods.
Sure,
that's probably where he got it from.
I do like to say JT was the type of kid, and is still the type of child that loves creatures. He loves monsters. He loves creature features. All
Tremors
that
is my favorite movie.
Tremors was so good.
It was.
Yeah.
It's like a moment to recognize that Tremors is a brilliant movie.
It is a brilliant film.
I saw it in the movie theater, and
I'm jealous.
And I was
so jealous.
I was in the Army at the time, so me and my buddies were in the movie theater. But by the end, we had our feet off the ground. We were watching the movie with our feet off the ground.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I always think that Tremors is the perfect movie, and I actually wrote an essay in college about why Tremors is the perfect movie. I could probably find it if anyone's interested in reading it, but
put it on the Patreon.
Yeah, right. Put it on the Patreon for the bear junkies. But yeah, it's just got the romance, it's got the violence, it's got
it's a perfect
everything.
Cryptid.
It's comedy
because
it really is.
It harkens to like the Mongolian death worm. It harkens to the Dehole of Lovecraftian lore. It harkens to the sandworms from both Beetlejuice and Dune. It has all these roots that we're kind of familiar with, that we have like this notion of. So, sidebar, great movie, Tremors.
Yeah, great creature effects. They did such a good job.
Very practical and simple.
Yes.
It really was no CGI.
No.
Zero
No
CGI. That's one of my main points in the essay, is that they did that.
Yeah.
Like they went and did it. All right, here we go. Got 2 questions left. Lakin Sunray asks, in reference to the welcome mat video, or what you said on the podcast, what if the ghost speaks a different language? Language.
That's so smart.
I know.
Smart question.
Y'all, gosh, you're all. This is why I say TikTok keeps me humble, because it's true. It's actually a very good question, because in that ghost tip, it was don't put the word welcome on your mat, because it allows, you're basically welcoming a spirit in by saying like, yes, you are welcome in my home. Now, in the case of it being a spirit that has a language barrier, I don't think it's going to be going off of your welcome mat to come into your home. If it has a different language, it's either going to be already attached to your land. it's already going to be, attached to you in some other way or trying to go about other motives.
A pretty constant misconception that spirits hear, see, read the way we do.
That is true.
They do not have eyes. They do not have ears. They are using some spiritual detection to understand things. So that's why ritual works. That's why your intention creates a lot of things. And a welcome mat, while in the end, you're putting the word welcome on your front step, it is also a notion and a suggestion of openness and welcoming versus wipe your damn feet before you walk in the house. Which, generally that's what a welcome mat is. It's wipe your feet. So worth noting, and I've gone through this many times in my life where it was when we're listening to spirit boxes or things like that, why are we not hearing them in their native tongue or in their native language if we're not in this country? What's going on as far as how do we tell that? And sometimes you do. Sometimes you will get these foreign languages coming through, which is very impressive, very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But in the end, I think it's about the communication of an idea that spiritually can be translated to any language, that can be given to you and perceived by you. So you don't necessarily have to speak the language of the spirit in order to understand what it's trying to get across. Having said that, I have oftentimes wondered that very question when it comes to prayers of exorcism or prayers of, like Latin for the longest time was the prayer of exorcism. It's like, do ghosts still speak Latin? It's like, and it boils down to intent again. It's the intention of the person speaking that is really being seen, and that ritualistic strength that comes from using a language that they studied and they, really put their faith into.
And JT causing mass destruction. Okay? But I completely agree with that. I mean, what the whole reason of why not putting the welcome mat in front of your door that says welcome is because thresholds are a big deal, especially in witchcraft, because that is your entrance into your home. That is your entrance into your safe space, your sacred space even. So you're wanting to control a lot. That's why a lot of your wards go towards like the front of your house or under, like you put sigils underneath your mats and stuff.
I mean, the classic vampire lore states that they cannot enter your house unless you invite them.
Exactly.
Unless you actively invite them. And that comes from a long belief about how spirits and how evil forces enter your home and enter your life is through invitation.
I also loved reading the comments on that video because so many of you were like saying what mats you use instead, especially the witches came out in that video. I remember one person said that they had a mat that said, go on, get.
Go on, get.
I like
That's a great one.
Honestly, where'd you get it? That's great.
Yeah. And then another person said that right before they saw that video, their small child, they had a welcome mat that said, hey, boo, which I'm pretty sure, that was like a big thing this year in the Halloween decor scene, was saying like, hey, boo, with like a little ghost on it. And their small child goes, oh, no, Mom, you're letting the ghosts in. Oh. And I was like, even a 7-year-old is picking up on it,
Very nice.
It's pretty cool. I loved reading that.
Grand Rapids Massage Therapy asks, in reference to an entity giving you info you should not know, if you take that information, have you entered a contract with that spirit? Great question.
Yes.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what spirit you're talking to, but usually if a spirit is giving you information that you should not know, like something that's going to happen in your future, something that it's saying is like determined to happen, then yes, that is giving you something, and in trade, they're going to want something back. That is how most demons, using demon as a catch-all term for, just entities of that nature, That is how most of them go about. And that goes back into Fae lore. That's why you never accept a gift from a Fae. Even if you think they're just trying to be nice to you, they're not. They want something. And usually you don't want to give them what it is that they want. Because sometimes, you reach into the more malevolent side of things and they want, control of your soul and things like that. Especially with Fae, they're notorious for things like that. But a lot of times they're wanting you to do something that benefits them.
Yeah, the concept of like signing a contract is, just a piece of our very litigious society. We just think that, oh yeah, you're going to sign away your soul. It is absolutely not a contract. Like, it's not a physical piece of paper or anything like that.
It's an agreement.
It is, an exchange. An even exchange, actually, usually it's a very uneven exchange. You get something, they get something. And of course, that something does not necessarily mean your entire soul. It does mean you're beholden to them or you are now forever linked to them. Which oftentimes is just a parasitic relationship where by receiving something from them and continuing, and usually that leads to the ruin of a person because they become dependent on this future knowledge and they begin to wither away in their life presently. If you are not living now, but for the thing that's to come, the now will dissolve. You will lose your ability to really appreciate the existence you have, regardless of the promised future. So it is very dangerous because in many instances, they will just tell you what you want to know and you take it to be truth. And that becomes this cycle of self-destruction.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of times they use it almost as a trap.
Absolutely.
And they don't give you anything else that really benefits you. After that point, they're really just going to push you to the point where they're like to just get whatever it is that they're looking for. So definitely don't trust the spirit that is giving you information that you should not know. If you hear that, you're like, peace out, goodbye.
At least red flag it.
Red flag it, yeah. But JT is giving me the signal that we need to start wrapping things up. So thank you guys for all of your awesome questions.
Yeah,
you guys
these are great questions.
They're so smart. They are just like, super interesting questions. So definitely keep it up. If you have a question, please feel free to utilize that Q&A button on TikTok. Or if you're a para junkie, you're more than welcome to message us or leave a comment on any of the posts or whatever. But with that, Christy, you have a ghost tip that you'd like to share?
Yes, do not sit in a room full of serial killer paintings.
Don't do that. We'll lead by example on that one. So yeah, it's creepy and gives you a massive headache.
It gives you a massive headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, well, cool. Well, we will see you guys in the next episode. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.